Yes, indeed, folks. We're doing it again. We got more action for you, and it's coming your way right about now. It is going to be Axiom.CranK versus Axiom.Miya on Daybreak.
Yeah, and we're able to see Crank very recently doing a pretty darn good there, but Mia, unfortunately, even though I feel like Mia's got all the right moves, just something is not happening for him today. And I feel like he could still easily take his next two games, as even though he hasn't managed to get a win yet, he still does have two games. And anyways, Mia going to be spawning down in the bottom left side as our red Zerg.
Yes, he will indeed. Yet to get a win on the board, but he does still have two maps to play with. This is Crank's last map, so this is very much going to determine his tournament fate. If he takes this one, he's got a really good shot of going through to the finals. If he doesn't, then we might end up in that infamous tiebreak situation. What does that mean, Husky?
That means more games?
It means more games. More games, which I'm sure everyone's going to be so upset by.
Oh yeah, no, they're definitely all gonna go home and go to bed after that. But I gotta say, I love when I'm dual casting with someone and they're totally setting me up for like what the most obvious answer is. It's like, you know what, Husky, we've seen a TVZ and there's only one race we haven't seen yet. You know what that means? And I'm just like, Pokemon or something. So I'm glad that I was able to make it through that one.
It's not very effective.
It is not effective at all. But this map definitely kind of favors longer games, and that can go either way now, whereas normally you would expect a late game to favor Zerg, but there's a lot of Protoss usefulness within the Tempest and even the Carrier in the late game versus Zerg, so curious to see if it gets that far.
That is so mean. Wow. That is the most BM thing I've seen so far. So Crank brings up the fact that Mia was knocked out of Code A by Squirtle, which he was. That's just mean. Oh, that's horrible.
Oh, but hey, at least it's on topic talking about Pokemon, so I guess that's the thing. But they are indeed being super BM. It does like the hatchery going to be going down here. Knows that the hatchery was first, which in PvZ is not uncommon, or is uncommon, and we do have the Nexus first
Nexus
here
first, man.
For Crank with the forage in the main base. So maybe they're just screen cheating and they're like, hey, you know what? Let's just expand. Screw it. Let's have some fun.
It works, man. It works really well. But as just before people say, oh my god, it was so rude. It's like, guys, these guys live together. They sleep in the same room. Yeah, they know. They are well aware. And the BM dancing overlord coming in right here from Mia, who's showing his moves. And it looks like his dancing partner will be the probe this time around. But yeah, these guys live together. They're in the same house. So any BM that you see is purely in jest and for the purposes of entertaining you this tournament.
Oh, but TotalBiscuit, watching the drama unfurl when there is actually no drama is probably one of my favorite things about the internet, as we do have the double gas going to be going down. And, you know, I feel like he took a bit of a risk, but at the same time, maybe Ax was like, hey, I'm going to beat you up in real life if you Zergling rush me, so I'm just going to do my Nexus first, then the Gateway, then the Cannon. So he took a bit of a risk, but as a Protoss player, you feel so nice and comfy being able to pull this off, as we have the third base going to be going down for Mia already.
That we do. Great. I mean, that's what you should be doing, really. Is your opponent's got Nexus first, you got really two options. Either you try and bust it, which is, if it doesn't work, it's going to lead you so far behind, or you just take your third base and you just drone for a while, knowing that there's one or two things that's probably going to be coming at you, and it's either going to be +1 Zealot most of the time, or it's going to be air. And we haven't seen air come out yet from Crank this entire tournament, which is curious considering that Protoss has a lot of air options now.
Yeah, it's definitely, just kind of in my experience of playing on ladder, like, it can be kind of scary to go for those new units, because if you go for the Oracle, you know, the good players are going to know how to stop the Oracle from doing harass. Think of it kind of like a Reaper, where you can kill a noob with it, but, you know, if they prepare for it, it doesn't really do anything, and it puts you behind in the army. And so the only other options are going to be a Void Ray or a Phoenix, and that's something that, you know, Zerg players are used to dealing with because of Wings of Liberty. So as a Protoss player, I can tell you, those units start to look mighty appealing in the late game, but anytime before then, it can definitely be a liability if you're unable to really do much damage with it.
One other thing that I would say is going kind of in favor of this, and as we do see the Stargate go down here, is that Phoenix did get a bonus range now. So that does give them an edge. And honestly, Crank likes Phoenix playing this matchup anyway. He really does. In Wings of Liberty, he uses Stargate a lot of the time in PvZ. And he has an exceptional win rate in this matchup. It, at one point, was over 70%, which is pretty ridiculous. I think it's about 66% now. But yeah, he's really great in this matchup. The question is, what does he deploy? Is it going to be an Oracle, a Void Ray? It's going to be an Oracle coming out.
Yeah, and just kind of on the Phoenix tune, since we could still be seeing a Phoenix come out after this Oracle, you have to remember that not only do they have the +1 range, but Infestors, they can't hit Phoenix for anything now with the 10-speed attack on the Fungal Growth there, where, you know, Fungal Growth's still great versus Marines and Zealots and things like that, but the Phoenix can dodge it quite easily if you see the Infestors coming. So definitely something to keep in mind there. The Mothership Core is going to be moving out, and is that a second Oracle on the way? Yes, it is. And remember, the Oracle, they got changed a little bit, where once you activate Pulsar Beam, it costs 25 energy. So you better be ready to commit, because you can't activate it more than once or twice before you're out of energy.
That's true. These things really, really wreck light units. They're designed for worker harass. They do work on certain other things. They kill Zerglings really fast too. But aside from that, they're very expensive units. For an Oracle, you're going to be paying 150 and 150. They're also 3 supply, which means getting a lot of them out early on is a very big commitment, and you have to do enough damage to make them worthwhile. If you don't, then you basically have no army at all, and you can just be run over by roaches. Roach is actually a great answer to Oracle, because Oracles do so little against roaches. You can just walk across the map and win.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things where even back in normal Wings of Liberty, even if you had a Void Ray or 2 out, you still couldn't even necessarily stop Zergling Roach timings, because they just didn't do damage quickly enough. So the Oracle are going to be suffering kind of that same problem, although Void Rays did get a slight buff versus Roaches.
They did.
But right now it does look like the Oracle is going to be moving out here, and it looks like that base is actually mighty undefended right now. The Zergling Roach army is not going to spot this. This Oracle army could do a ridiculous amount. He could also throw out Time Warp just to delay the mining, but it looks like he's, I would assume, going to activate here. Does he go for the Queen first? Yes, he does. He still do a lot of damage, and that means these drones are going to be goodbye.
Yeah, he's going to get out of there. Look at how quickly those guys kill drones. That is so crazy. And the Oracle melts the drone line, already having killed 12 workers. Is now working on the Hydra Den, which is not going to finish the Infestation Pit as well. But in the meantime, there's this big Ling counterattack coming in. He's trying to wall off against it here. The Nexus isn't done, so he can't deploy that beam, but he does have a cannon there, and those Oracles did so much damage, canceling the tech, killing 12 workers already, and a good investment. Not that they can really do much now. As you can see, they don't have any energy. They're going to have to leave, but that was a good start here for Crank.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Mia here, I mean, he got to the expansion before the defenses were ready, but he decided not to commit versus that one cannon, which means the wallop's going to be completed here, which means that, you know, the fact that there's no army really for Crank isn't going to matter now, because he bought enough time to get out the army, and the Oracles are still going to be able to scout around. They can also safely just sit at the main base. But Crank has made so many gateways right now. He may just try and end this straight up with a very powerful army, maybe using Time Warp as well, as he is working on Charge and a Templar Archive. So he's kind of, you know, he went for the Oracles, but after that, he's keeping it pretty simple.
Can we talk about this 10.5-minute hive that's coming in? Oh, he's going to spot it as well. He wanted to stop the hallucination coming in, but he spots the stupidly early hive. Like, this is a 10.5-minute hive here, which is generally what you don't see, but that's insane. That's so quick here from Mia. The question is, what is he going to do with it?
Also, what's insane is 25 workers killed, units lost 2,000 to 0. Which means that Crank, I don't think he's going to get a flawless victory here, since there is a probe going to be moving out there to try and put down a Nexus. But, you know, that's a good start no matter who you're playing against and no matter what the matchup is. As the Oracles have proven, they are still a very useful unit right now. But Mia, you know, had great games 1 and 2, but so far in game number 3 literally hasn't done any damage whatsoever. No,
he hasn't, and he's lost so many workers already. However, he has been on 4 bases, so yeah, he loses a bunch of workers, but he hasn't lost anything else, and he hasn't otherwise been attacked. Hydra Den pretty early, which is not so good. A whiffed force field there by Crank does not catch the Lings out of position. But the thing is, Crank takes his 4th base, and if he takes the 4th base uncontested, then Mia's going to have a really tough time keeping up with him.
Mia, though, is getting some good scouting off in the main base, sees that there's Storm on the way, sees the gateway count, sees the upgrades as well, and also the Dark Shrine there, which at this point, Dark Shrine isn't so much about harassment as it is about Archons, but it is still a potential threat, so we're going to have to leave Spore Callers at each of those bases. The worker count is relatively even here, still a slight lead for Mia, showing you how important worker harass is for Protoss, but since he's done the damage, that fourth base is going to be almost invaluable, and the Oracle's still alive. Remember, they can still do Time Warp, and Revelation also allows them to help spot things on the map. But I think for the most part, you're going to either see Time Warp in the late game or Pulsar Beam in the early and mid games.
That you certainly will. Now, the drone count is back up a healthy amount. 79 drones on 4 bases. That's pretty much what you want, and production is coming in. Hydra speed is being added on, so we're going to be seeing Roach Hydra and Viper once again, which is kind of a practiced composition here, I feel. And this should actually work. I mean, the thing about this composition is, like, Roach Hydra was popular for a while, right? But it started getting less popular because it's essentially shut down by Colossus. So what happens if you don't have Colossus? Well, suddenly, this composition gets really, really nasty against gateway units all of a sudden.
Now, does he have enough units and money to back up this army? Because you got to remember, he probably won't win in a straight-on engagement. He's going to have to rely on the reinforcements. Feedback on one of the Vipers goes down. Blinding Cloud utilized here, and if you drop those on the cannons, they really don't attack anything. But I think Mia making the correct choice is gonna back out and get to a better position. Storm 1 lands and connects, forces the army back. Some reinforcements there do get intercepted right now, but it looks like there's the Time Warp gonna be preventing the retreat here, and this means this army may be forced to engage here. This is exactly what you have to watch out for. Still manages to actually get away there, although still is losing quite a bit of units.
Yeah, although I've got to say, the army for Crank isn't actually that large, and Mia could very well do something here. He's actually going Ultralisk, which is a curious choice to say the least, and now the engagement coming in once again. Blinding Cloud has been deployed, but Ultra this time around in this expansion, they've changed the damage type. Like, it just now does a flat out a lot of damage, so it's actually really good.
Yeah, it's actually, that was a much bigger buff than I think some people give it credit for, where it used to do, you know, special damage versus armored and basically no damage versus everything, but now it does the same exact amount it used to do to armored to every single unit. So what that means is, you know, Stalker's still going to be good versus them, but those Zealots are going to melt away, which will open up an attack for every other unit. So actually, the risk he took going for such an early Hive, you know, it looked like Crank had won this game. He did so much damage, but the early Hive tech now starting to pay off. 5 Ultras on the way. Chitinous plating nearly done, which means, you know, a couple additional armor for those Ultras. The rest of the upgrades kind of lackluster here with Crank having the 3 attacks. So yeah, I think that this will balance out.
Oh, nice feedback. A great storm on there. Oh, huge storms coming in, doing immense damage to Mia's army. He gets completely crushed at that ramp and has to retreat almost immediately, taking so much damage.
Yeah, and remember that the High Templar are not going to be that useful versus the Roaches and the Ultras, but the Hydras eating the brunt of those storms. And there's more Time Warp right there to just try and delay the Ultralisk from getting on top of the army, and they are going to get there, doing quite a bit of splash damage, but at the same time, they can't get a good engagement. There's just too many units here for Crank. Crank may be having his 3rd win right now, and even the Oracle's using that energy to do as much DPS as possible. The Ultra's unable to fully commit there. There are 5 more Roaches on the way, but that is so many Blink Stalkers.
It really is. There are a lot of Ultras, a lot of Roaches coming in. I mean, there's still a bank here for Mia. He could engage, but he's got to engage effectively, otherwise this will not work out for him at all. It's like Blinding Cloud was deployed, and Ultralisk making their way in, but a big blink on top of the Ultras, and Crank doesn't care with +3 attack, and Mia is going to go down again by the looks of it, although, I don't know, I mean, it's still kind of... It's difficult to say. All right? There's still 4 bases up here for Mia. He's still running in reinforcements, but these Blink Stalkers are doing work, man.
Yeah, especially with a huge warping of reinforcements here over and over and over from Crank. Remember, Crank's army isn't as big. Oh, there we go. GG. I was going to say his army wasn't as big because he made so many gateways at first, which means now that he has the economy to continue warping in, that's exactly what you're going to see is a lot more gateway usage. And also, I want to say, you know, players have started to favor Ultras. They've started to favor the Roach Hydra, which, you know, since there's no Brood Lords anymore, that means that those gateway units are a lot more effective in those mid and late games because the Brood Lords can't just sit there and pick them from afar. So a great game there by Crank, and that's going to rake in, I believe, his 3rd win right now, if I'm not mistaken.